Pretty wonderful. Lots of good bike riding.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's
Well, it's
great.
still summer here.
All right, well, I'm going to call this
Yeah.
meeting to order, the Economic Development Sales Tax Committee. And I want to welcome our people who are coming here.
Recording in progress.
I want to start this meeting of the Economic Development Sales Board. And my name is Stuart Clark. I've got Paul Hampel. Ginny McDonald is calling in from Michigan. And we have one other member who, Jamie Allen, who is at a school board meeting tonight. So I wanted to start off by just kind of going over what is this board actually here for? What are we supposed to do? And what this board does really is it keeps track of it. In 2018, the citizens voted for a half-cent sales tax. That sales tax, now over the last few years, is bringing about $3.5 million in sales tax revenue. And every year we sold bonds with the money that was collected. And every year we pay out about $2.5 million. So our fund balance is growing in that account. And so the Economic Development Sales Tax Board, our responsibility really is to keep an eye on those funds, but then also the city will present to us, if we have additional funds over and above the payments that we make to the bondholders, they'll present ideas to us on ways to use that money. And then this board can simply listen and then potentially send those on to the Board of Aldermen and say, we think this is a good idea, or we think this is a bad idea. The Board of Aldermen then makes the final decision on where those funds go when we collect excess funds over and above the bond payments. And one of the things we may do is pay down the debt a little sooner. So if we end up with some extra cash in the account after we paid the bondholders, we may, after I think about 8 years, these are 20-year notes that we sold. After 8 years, we can actually pay the debt down a little bit sooner. So that may be one use that's proposed to this board, or we may use it for other areas. But at the end of the day, the reason why we're here is because the citizens wanted to help economic development in Brentwood, and that's what's going on Manchester Road and the park. So I just wanted to go over that, Ginny and Paul, so we could just kind of get, and anyone who's listening. So with that said, we'll move forward. Okay. And so we'll do the roll call.
Ginny McDonald.
Ginny,
Here.
Here. Paul Hempo.
Present.
Amy Allen, absent. Quorum is represented by 3 members, so roll.
Okay. Now, approval or amendment of the agenda. Is there any amendments or?
There are no amendments.
Okay, so we approve the agenda. Do we need to vote on that?
As presented.
Okay, so all in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
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 Now we have the consent agenda, the meeting minutes, approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any meeting minutes?
So you would entertain a motion to approve?
I entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Next item on the agenda would have been the purpose of the annual meeting, and we have Dana Kramer with Armstrong Teasdale online to cover that. But you did such a fantastic job at the beginning of the meeting, kind of explaining that. I don't know that
Dana, do you have
Dana
anything
feels
to
anything
add
to
to what I said as far as the purpose of this annual meeting?
No, I think you did a great job covering it. I don't have anything to add.
Okay, all right, cool. All right. Election of officers. Do we need to elect officers at this meeting? Yes. All right. Do we have a motion for nominating a chairman?
Make that motion.
What do you say, Paul?
Nominate Stu as chairman again.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, all right, we have a first and second. Do we need to nominate any other officers? Officer, I think a vice chairman?
Yes,
I would nominate, can I nominate?
yes.
I nominate Ginny McDonald as vice chairman of,
Second that.
okay? All right, so we have vice chairman of Ginny McDonald, chairman Stuart Clark. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Okay, now we have a Brentwood Bound project update, and this is going to be Eric. Oh, yes.
I apologize for the interruption, but we didn't have the election for the secretary of the board.
Excuse me. All right, secretary of the board. Do we have a nomination for the secretary of the board? I nominate Kelly. Paul, you second that? Okay, so yeah. All right, all in favor of Kelly being the secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Now it's time for the Brentwood Bound project update. Hi, Eric, how's it going?
So I was asked just to provide a quick presentation on where we're at with Brentwood Bound. Oh, I went the wrong way from the last meeting. So we'll just talk about where we're at with the project, the schedule, and if you guys have any questions or answers. Obviously, we know the project was done while we started, while we passed the EDST, was to stop flooding within the Manchester corridor, to kind of that public safety and health issue, and then ultimately be able to kind of redevelop the area that had been affected throughout the years. So this is what it will look like hopefully very soon, and we're getting pretty close. So just kind of give a quick rundown. Manchester Road the project is substantially complete, which means they're pretty much done. They're just doing some small punch list item, final completions, things like there's some drainage issues around the tunnel that they're correcting and making sure the water drains out away from the tunnel and not down to the tunnel. That's one thing. There's they're looking at mid block crossings. So that's another one. The last thing is they're still finishing up where the old locksmith building used to be. You'll see there's still a lot of dirt and rock there right now, so they've got to finalize that. So those are the things that they're working on. Phase 1 and Phase 2 have been completed, and that, along with GRG Part A, was what allowed us to open up the park in June. So again, substantially complete. What we're really looking on there is the final punch list items, and most of those, in fact, all of them are related to landscaping, making sure landscaping is coming in, making sure the contractor stays up with the landscaping requirements, making sure we have full coverage, those type of things. So they're still down in the park, but again, does not affect the usage of the park. And then as far as the park projects, the event lawn and comfort station has been final. It did reach final completion, which means they're completely done. We are maintaining everything at this point. We are doing, but within the first year, there's always warranty items. You want to make sure that everything's working properly. So we're working with the contractor on a few warranty items. Small things like weather stripping along a door. It has been falling off, so we're working on them getting that completed. There's, the bioretention area is a little bit wetter than it should be, so we're working on that to make sure that it's been installed properly. So those are the things that city staff really focus on that first year during that warranty issue, warranty time, to make sure that everything's working properly. GRG Connector Part A, that's basically the project that goes from the tunnel when BODOT finished all the way to Brentwood Boulevard. And it's the main cusp of where the trails come through the park and the lake and those things. Again, that project has reached final completion, so they are done. The contractor, who's Ideal Landscaping, does have a year maintenance agreement for landscaping. So you'll see them out there mowing, pulling weeds, fertilizing, all that stuff. So they're still out there until next May, late May, early June. So you'll still see Ideal out there as well. GG Connector B, this is exciting. So this has been long waiting. We've been working with Union Pacific, and Union Pacific has been tied us up for a long time. So when you work with UP, it's always on their schedule. They don't really care about our schedule. So we are at the point where we've got everything approved, and the bids are due Thursday morning, with the hope that we'll bring those bids and a recommendation to the board in the board meeting in October. So with that, we'll be starting construction pretty soon. Because of Union Pacific and MoDOT having to do some work as well, we'll kind of do this in 2 phases. Phase 1, which is the most important phase to me, is getting the entrance to Brentwood Park completed, and then the trail up to Marshall Avenue, and then the trail across the street on Russell all the way to the sports complex done. We put in the bid documents that the entrance into the park off of Brentwood Boulevard has to be complete by March, the end of March next year. So by the start of our new park season, really, that entrance should be open and ready to go. What that leaves is the 2 big parts, which is Union Pacific doing their work on the railroad and some crossing arms and lights and things like that that they have to get done. And then MoDOT comes in at the end and puts in the signal, the vehicle signal that will then have a 4-way stoplight at Brazil and Russell, which then allows pedestrian usage across the street to that new pathway over there. Also allows vehicular access, being able to take a left at a light instead of trying to cross Brentwood Boulevard at a stop sign. So that will get done, we think, at the end of next year, early 2025. So that is kind of the last part of what we need to do. If you've been out in the park lately, hopefully you'll be noticing the destination playground is continuing to be built. We're getting close to getting done with that project. We're on track for late November, December, substantial completion. If we get too much further into that timeline, landscaping will have to be deferred to the spring. We'll miss our landscaping window. And so that you'll see some of that landscaping in the spring. Once that happens, once we're able to get kids onto the playground, we'll probably do a ribbon cutting, even if it's January 2nd and -2 degrees. We'll cut it so that way on January 6th, when it's 80 degrees, kids will be able to go out there and play. So we know how winters in St. Louis can be. So we'll do that, and then we'll have a big sort of grand celebration in the spring to kind of officially open it and have a big party. So that is kind of where we're at. So you kind of see the schedule. I think the big thing that we continue to tell people is that while we're getting done, you'll still see contractors in the park, whether it's finishing up punch list items, whether it's the landscape agreements. We have a year landscape agreement on phase 1, phase 2, GRGA, the destination playground. So you'll see people in there for a little bit of time, and staff's job is making sure that everything is put in correctly, working correctly, and catching any warranty items, that includes plantings, dead plants, dead trees, having those replaced. So that's what we'll be doing a lot of as well. So we hope that the whole project will be done by the very latest spring of 2025, and we'll just be able to enjoy that park for the next century.
Okay, great, thanks.
Eric, can I ask you a question?
Please.
That floodplain area behind Brentwood Public Works, just south of the concrete walkway, between the walkway and the creek, it's my understanding that there was initially plans to put trees or other greenery in there, but that was rethought after flash flooding proved detrimental or making that just not practical. I had heard that large rocks or decorative boulders might be put in that area. Is that still the thinking there?
No, I mean, we're in the point right now where we're still working with our contractor on punch list items, and that includes plantings within that area. If you go down there and look, there are a number of trees in that area, and we did plant a number of trees. So all the trees that were in the project have been planted in that area. So, they are there. If we see that once the plans, the design did not include any of those boulders, if once we're done and that project has been completed, reached final completion, if we feel there's a need to do anything else, that's when the city staff will come in and do something.
Eric, I have a question. I believe you said that there's a maintenance agreement for 1 year on the park area. After that time, does the Brentwood Parks Department take over maintenance?
Yes, and so it's interesting because there's 5 or 6 different contracts down there. So the pavilion actually did not include a maintenance agreement. So we're already maintaining the area around the pavilion, which is really the event lawn, and then the landscape beds around the event lawn. Ideal, like I said, has a 1-year agreement, and that includes the parking lot and basically all the plantings and trees on that trail all the way to the tunnel. And then Phase 1 and Phase 2 have a 1-year from El Keely. So as soon as we get to final completion, we'll start that landscape agreement. They're out there doing things already, mainly because they have to maintain it. The big thing, especially for us and now in the fall, is now we've gotten past the summer, should be seeing people out there seeding, overseeding, established areas, overseeding, especially the places around the lake with the natural areas that need a pop. We still need a little bit more seed down there. They need to get through that first freeze-thaw cycle to really get those seeds to germinate and take place, but we'll be overseeding a lot of those places in the fall.
Another question. That's on my daily jogging route, and at times the goose droppings can be pretty heavy in there. Is that an issue that you're addressing, or is there any
There's lots of things
Fix
we're
to
doing
that,
about
or-
that. Yeah, I mean, geese find water, right? I mean, and unfortunately, Canadian geese are no longer Canadian. They're across the entire country, and they are a pest. They're a pest not only there, but also in other places around the city. People like them. Parks people, not so much. So we're doing a couple things.
joggers?
Yeah, no. So our staff does try to get out there with a heavy broom every day and try to get the droppings up. But what we've done is start working with, and I can't remember exact, but it's basically MoDNR. We've just reached an agreement with them. They're going to come out and go through. We've shown everything that we did to try to remove geese. MoDNR makes you kind of go through a process. Once you've proven you do that, then they come in and assist. They'll start with, trying to nuisance noise, things like that. Then we'll go to the point, if it gets to next year, they'll start greasing the eggs, they'll start removing the eggs. And if it's still a problem, we'll get to they'll take them. And so that's what we're working. The other thing is that nature will take their course. So we've seen foxes in the park. It looks like on the other side, we're starting to see there's a coyote family.
Yeah, there's a coyote family.
Yeah, we think that will help a lot. So, I mean, once we start seeing that those type of animals come back in the area, hopefully that will decrease the population as well. So we're doing multiple things. But yeah, we can't wait till we get rid of them.
Aye, it's too cold.
Okay, any other questions? All right.
Great.
Thanks very much, Eric.
Thank
and
you.
Thanks for all your hard work on this project.
Great, Eric. Outstanding.
Okay, next we have Joel from Green Street. Joel, thanks so much for coming out tonight.
Absolutely. There's no circle of life in my presentation.
Hey.
So
Green Street's got both sides of the street. They got 3 phases set up. Phase 1,
we're working. So the agreement with the city was signed on July 28th. The slide in front of you, if you can still see it, was from what we presented on July 5th and what is attached to the redevelopment agreement as the approved concept plan for the entire district. We are nearing the 60-day mark of when the agreement was signed, which per the agreement, that is when we had to make initial offers on all the parcels in the first phase. So that will be finished up in the next 2 days. We have reached out to every property owner in the entire district. That happened within the first 30 days of the agreement being signed. We're continuing to work with city staff and the city's engineer, which is Jacobs Engineering, and SEMA's engineer, which is Woods, as the flood map process continues to evolve. So as everybody knows, we are at the mercy of the flood map timing, which is still the case. So we're just kind of ebb and flow as we learn new information and continue to inform what we're doing here. So happy to answer any questions, though. Beyond that.
the flood map.
Yep.
Okay, so you've contacted the property owners that are border of that flood map. And how is that going to affect, so you can't make them a final offer, or you can't make anyone a final offer in a sense in phase 1 yet?
So offers are out there. Offers are, for everybody, will be contingent on how the maps are finalized, because no closings would happen until next year when those maps are done by FEMA and SEMA. We have the most current information from Jacobs, which is what we're working off of. You know, in the process, what most people don't necessarily understand is just because the flood maps have changed, that does not mean that current buildings are not still in a situation that will be in the floodplain. A majority of what's there has to be demolished and raised up, so it's built up out of that plane. So we're just having those conversations with individuals on a parcel by parcel basis to kind of demonstrate the reality in each case.
I have a question,
Okay.
and Stu, you might be the best person to address this. I'm not clear on what the relationship is between the work of this committee and the development that's going on along Manchester Road.
Well, I would say, in terms of how does this committee interact with what's going on, initially it was set up, when we initially issued the sales, when the citizens decided to issue the half-cent sales tax, that money was designed to go into Brentwood bound, which includes the Manchester redevelopment side of it. So not only was it the park, I mean, as it was sold to the citizens, it was really to finish out the Brentwood bound and the park. But being that Manchester redevelopment is right next to that, that's going to be pretty important. In it's kind of, they're kind of linked together from that standpoint, I guess. But we don't have a direct relationship. We don't tell Green Street, it's just Joel's come to kind of tell us how it's going, how is there economic development going on, and what's the status of that economic development. What he's telling us is that they signed the agreement as the master developer, and approved as the master developer, so they're in charge of both sides of that street. And in the first 30 days, they had to send a letter out to every property owner there and tell them that they've been selected. And in phase one, they actually had to make offers to everyone in phase one. So, here's your property, we think it's worth this much, and there's an offer to buy it. So, so in that case, we are the Economic Development Sales Tax Board, and economic development is happening. And so that's why Joel's here.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is any of this half-cent sales tax going to be directly used for this development project?
No. The
No, not for
half-cent
what-
sales
yeah.
Okay.
tax is primarily being used to service the debt. It's called the 2019 COPS, which is 40 million, which was used to do the Brentwood Bound project. So there were two COPS issued. There was the 2018, and then there was the 2019. So it's just to do the Brentwood Bound project, which is the flood mitigation, the GRG trails, the tunnel. It has absolutely nothing to do with the redevelopment project along Manchester Road.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joel.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right. One of the things this committee does is file an annual report. We're required to file an annual report with the state of Missouri. I have it in front of me, and I guess I can read it. It says the annual report is submitted by the City of Brentwood Economic Development Tax Board to the City of Brentwood, Missouri, and the City Joint Committee on Economic Development in accordance with Section 67.1305.17 of the revised statutes of Missouri. On January 7, 2019, the city approved ordinance number 4868, authorizing the imposition of a sales tax for the purpose of economic development in accordance with the Act, EDST. The EDST will fund certain coordinated public works project, collectively known as Brentwood Bound. The primary economic development goals of the project included eliminating widespread and unnecessary public health and safety risks and economic blight in the city of Brentwood, creating new recreational facilities for Brentwood residents, improving public health, managing stormwater drainage, and reducing risk of floods, and providing new employment and economic revitalization and expansion. So during the calendar year ending in December 31st, 2022, the board received approximately $3,821,535 in EDST revenues and had approximately $2,570,952 in total expenditures for the project. All the 2022 expenditures were used to fund the 2019 Certificates of Participation Debt Service Payments for the Brentwood Bound project. So this is what we will file with the state. And I just wanted to read through it, and it kind of answers what you were saying, Jenny, is what, where are these funds going? Where did our funds go? So we need a motion. Go ahead and send that to the state.
So moved.
Okay, let's have a motion by Paul,
Second the motion.
seconded by Jenny. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. So we will file that report. All right, so now it's time. Do we have any citizens' comments?
There are no citizens online.
No citizens online, none here. Scheduled future meetings. So we've been meeting annually, and we're looking really at September 26, 2024, probably that annual time. So I would just propose that time for the next year. And we don't need a motion for that, I don't believe. All right. So, Jenny, we appreciate you calling in from Michigan. Enjoy the rest of your time there. And I just want
Thank
to
you.
thank all the staff for putting this together. And Joel, thank you for coming. And, Eric, thank you for your presentation. This is a big project. This is a lot of money. And, as we collect sales tax dollars, what's really important to the city of Brentwood, because things will change at the promenade, things will change at Brentwood Square, and we need continued economic development in the city of Brentwood. And we really encourage Green Street to be proactive, get out there, find out what's going to be best for the city of Brentwood, what's really going to work for the city of Brentwood. But so with that said, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second the
All right.
motion.
Second motion. We're adjourned.